Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a dynamic effort lower workout. So my dynamic effort for this 3-week wave is an 18-inch box squat using my bench because it's comfortable and practical. And this is the second week in the 3-week wave. So it's 80% of my 1 rep max. That's bar weight plus band tension for 3 sets of 5. So these move pretty good. The reason I chose an 18-inch box squat is it's basically coming out, or it's just below my sticking point in a squat. So I'm trying to work on being able to explode out of that sticking point all the way up to lockout. The bar speed was okay on this. It's quite hard to build up acceleration like in squats in the same way as bench, for instance. Bench, even though obviously everything's lighter, you're using smaller muscle groups, you can generally have faster bar speed because you're not having to move your entire body. It's just extending your arms. So considering it was a squat, the bar speed was good and I was happy with that. Then moving on to the first accessory here, I did good mornings using my safety squat bar. This is pretty much my favorite hip extension variation at the moment. These feel absolutely fantastic using this bar and really hit the posterior chain very effectively. When I'm doing it, I can feel like my glutes and lower back in particular, and then in the days after I get loads of DOMs in my hamstrings as well. So these felt really good. I went the heaviest I ever have done on these at 150 kilos. My previous heaviest was like 120 kilos for sets of 10, and I did 150 here for sets of 6. So I really feel like this exercise is going to transfer over fantastically to my squats and deadlifts, because when you fail a squat, or at least for me, if I fail a squat, it's from caving forward, and that is a very common way to fail a squat, is that your hip extension is not matching your leg drive. You can't get the weight up the same as you would with like a leg press or a belt squat, for instance. So these good mornings are really good for that. And then obviously in a deadlift, you are literally having to hinge up to lock out. So that's where my weakness is there, and I'm really hoping that those good mornings will transfer over. I know they will do. And I'm hoping to get that up to like 200 kilos for sets of 10 in future and just completely bulletproof the posterior chain. That should convert to a massive back squat and deadlift. So the next accessory here was quad extensions. Now I used 160 pounds on these, which is the joint heaviest I've ever done before. I think I have done 160 pounds for sets of 10 before. And here I think I managed to get like a fairly clean set of 12 on the first set. And on the second set, it was like 11 and a half reps really. But I was happy with these. Obviously, this is the most I've been able to do on quad extensions. So my quads in general as well are feeling like they're at their all-time strongest. And most importantly, this was, I used to talk about way more earlier in the series, but I had been working through a knee injury. We're sort of at the final stages where it's starting to feel pretty much back to normal, but I had minimal knee pain while doing these, which was a fantastic victory for me. Like heavy quad extensions were the thing that hurt the knee more than anything else. So I was literally barely able to do like 10 pounds on my right leg if I did it single leg because of how much pain my knee was in. So to be able to be back up at 160 pounds felt really good. So moving on to the next accessory here, it is calf raises. I used my 4-inch elevated block and I decided to just stick at 150 kilos. I often do that, whatever my second movement is for the day. So because it was good mornings, I just use the same bar for calf raises because it's practical and then I don't waste a load of time and effort lugging a load of plates around the gym. But these felt really good. This bar is also great for doing these because, as you can see, I don't have to hold the bar. I can hold the rack for stability, and I think I got 2 sets of 10, and these really hit the calves very well, so I was happy with those. Then moving on to the penultimate accessory here, I have banded hip abductions. So I'm actually using a lighter band than I normally do, but if you look at where I've anchored it, I've wrapped it round a second time. So I usually use the MiraFit 4 band, and this time I'm using the 3 band, but because I've wrapped it round more, it has like a higher band tension even than the higher band I normally use. But the distinct advantage of it is that the tension is more constant throughout. So if you wrap a band around and then stretch it, it already has tension even at the beginning of the movement. So for me, even when my feet are together, there's tension in the band, and it means that as you stretch it, you're just like, it's already 80% stretched, you're just stretching it to 100%. So there is still tension in it. If you use a heavier band, this is for all banded exercises that you anchor, I would advise using lighter bands and wrapping them around more because the tension's more constant. If you use a heavy band, there's like no tension at the bottom, and then suddenly it ramps up very quickly, which can be useful for like the squats I was doing at the beginning, my dynamic effort movements, because you want the tension to rapidly increase. But when you're doing like banded accessories, if it was something like maybe you don't have access to a seated row and you're doing like seated rows with bands, I would always advise to use lighter bands and then just wrap them around more, because it creates the same highest tension, but it's more constant throughout the range of motion. So the final accessory here was hip hold. So this again is an exercise I haven't really seen anybody else do. I don't know if it's like a real exercise. I mean, I guess it is, I'm doing it, but I just sort of thought of doing this one day. It kind of combines like tibialis raises, like an isometric tibialis hold, because you have to flex your foot up, otherwise the kettlebell will just slip off your foot. But the main thing that it is hitting is the hip flexors. So I had just a miscellaneous lower exercise program for the end of this workout. That means I just do any sort of lower movement that I think would be beneficial for me. Normally I do reverse hypers. However, I was feeling like quite run down during this exercise, and throughout earlier on in the week, if you've seen the few previous episodes I've been experiencing a bit of elbow and shoulder pain. Now at the time of recording this voiceover, it's Monday, and that's when I'm going to release the video. They're feeling way better, but I did this workout on Saturday, and doing reverse hypers, even just having to grip the handles and like pull back up on them in order to hold yourself in place, I didn't want to have to do that. My elbows and shoulders were pretty tender, and I'm going to have to bear that in mind for this next week of training upcoming. I guess I'll see what it is like moving on from that. But these hip holds felt very good. Like the movement suggests, it taxed the hip flexors a lot. It honestly feels like I'm holding my knee way higher. Like I think I'm holding it above parallel, but as you can see, it's a bit lower than it feels. They are pretty challenging, and I suggest you give them a try. I think they are useful. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff, and have a great day.